If you're into retro gaming, or even know someone who is, you probably would have heard of an emulator at some point, or yourself even used one. But is it worth using an emulator, especially in fact at all, to play games of your past or even childhood? Quick note, I am talking about console emulators, not operating system emulators, which even though are similar, is not the point of this video. And just so you know, only 9% of my viewers are actually subscribed. And if you're part of that 90% that aren't subscribed, please subscribe. It helps out a ton and would help grow my content so other people can see it. Now, some people would be thinking, yes, what's an obvious answer? However, from my point of view, as someone who owns and still uses their older consoles, you cannot match the feeling of sitting down and playing on the console you wish to emulate. There's just something about using the original hardware and just popping in the disc or the cartridge and just enjoying an old game of the past. Nothing can match that feeling. But not everyone owns a retro console or even the games they wish to play. That is why emulators exist, to allow a person to run another system in their system, like running a PlayStation emulator on your phone or PC to play PlayStation 1 games. Now, there are many ways in which a person can emulate their games. If they own the disc and a disk drive on their computer, they can put the disc in, depending on the emulator, and just play the game straight from the disc. However, from personal experience, this feature on the emulators is not the greatest. Gameplay was not very smooth, and there were gaps where the disc had to be read. With some emulators, you can connect an external controller into the device and play the games using said controller. Such a thing has been seen before with people playing Clone Hero, which is essentially a version of Guitar Hero. However, with certain consoles you are wishing to emulate, sometimes putting the disc in your device is not always possible, either because the game didn't come on discs, or you're trying to play on a mobile device like your phone. So the question is, how do you get the games for these emulators? The answer for this is a file called a ROM. Now, ROM means read-only memory. I had to Google this because I weren't too sure on it. But essentially, a ROM of a game is the game files that we typically find in the game cartridges or on the discs, compressed into a file so you can emulate the game. So where do you get these ROMs? Well, there are several places you can actually get the ROMs. However, don't just put in the desired game you wish to emulate, add ROM on the end of it, and just click on the first site, as anything you download from those sites could potentially have any kind of malware. There are trusted sites where you can get ROMs. Your Casual Gamer on YouTube has a couple videos on safe sites on where to get them, and I will link his videos in the description. It is worth mentioning that in the eyes of the law, getting these ROMs yourself from the disc or game cartridge you own and keeping them for yourself isn't illegal. But as soon as you share it, it becomes illegal, as you're basically sharing copyrighted material. In fact, there is an article where it says downloading any Nintendo ROM is illegal, even if you own the game. The consequences of downloading ROMs is a fine ranging from $700 to $300,000 for each ROM. But why do so many people download ROMs with the possibility of such heavy fines? Well, in most cases, it is because the game they want is no longer available to them, probably because the company that made it no longer exists, making it nigh on impossible to find. Now, while doing the research for this video, I asked different communities their thoughts on emulators. I spanned from Reddit to even TikTok. TikTok and Discord both had similar reactions, however Reddit on r/PSX and r/RetroGaming loved emulators. Everywhere I looked, loved it, great. I wouldn't stop using my emulators. On Discord, I reached out to fellow content creator Octorius and asked him for his opinion on emulators. He said, I think for retro games that are much harder to get your hands on, it makes sense. But for more recent platforms, PS2 gen and upwards, it's just piracy and there's no real excuse for it. And when I asked him why PS2 gen and upwards, he said most PS2 games can still be bought for reasonable prices online, last time I checked. Of which he is correct, because I keep checking CEX for stuff and I occasionally have a nosy at PS2 games and there's still plenty there, both online and in store. In short, even with the legal issues concerning emulation and the downloading of ROMs, it is worth using an emulator to play games of your childhood or just of the past, because on some emulators you can even upgrade the graphics to make a game look nicer than it would back in the day. I hope you enjoyed today's video on emulators. I have no idea what my next video is going to be about, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.